friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking through 10 of the series that I would like to start in 2021. So I know I have talked about how many series I already have on the go and how I really should not be starting any more series, but these series are calling to me and I've tried to pick ones that are not, well, either they're complete or they already have quite a few books out, so I'm not starting like just the first book in the series. But here's a list of 10 that I am really keen to get to next year. So firstly, I would like to get to the Traitor, Barrow, Cormorant series by Seth Dickinson. I have owned this book for a few years now. And me and Alan from the Library of Alexandria have mentioned that we might look to buddy read this next year together. We haven't said when, we haven't set any dates. We've just said, oh, we both own this book, let's read it. So I know that this is, I believe it's like a revenge story. The main character's homeland has been overrun with warring country, and so she is living her life trying to get her own back. But like, that could be wrong, but like, yes, I believe this is a 4-book series and the first 3 books are out and the 4th book is due to come out potentially next year. So hopefully I could just read the whole thing with Alan. Because of Jessie at the Bookish Mum, I would like to read Women's War by Jenna Glass, and she has been raving about this book. She said it's got great representation of older female characters, which is her thing, and it's great to see representation of all ages in fantasy. So I would like to get to that. And I know the first 2 books are out and the 3rd and final book in the trilogy is coming out in the summer, so it will be complete. I'm not too clued up on the plot, but I will leave Jessie's review down below talking about it. She's raved about it and now I want to read it and it's all her fault. I then have the Black Prism by Brent Weeks. I own the first 2 books in this series and it's a 5-book completed big epic fantasy series, and I feel like this would just be like a good series to just have under my belt. It just feels like it's one of those epic fantasy series that I'm going to love, and I just want it to be like my epic fantasy of the year. Like I have Malice this year where I just binged pretty much those 4 books and I loved it, and I feel like this is the series that will do that for 2021. I will just read these really big epic fantasies and get to it. Again, the plot is very limited. I know that this is the magic system in this revolves around light, and the more light you use, you hurt your body at the same time. So you may win a war using your magic and the light that you've brought, but at the end you could kill yourself from having drained your magic too much. Like using your magic kills you. But I'm not too sure on the plot. Jessie May has read, I think, the first 2 books and she's really enjoyed it, so I would like to get to this. And then I have the 3-Body Problem by Cixin Liu. I would like to read more sci-fi. I have always thought of myself as like a fantasy and sci-fi reader, when actually I read predominantly fantasy and my sci-fi is pretty limited. So I really want to expand the series that I read in the sci-fi genre, and I know that this one is really popular. So I would like to get to this. It's also a translation, and I don't read many books that are written not in English. I need to not just read from white authors from the UK or America, and I do really try to like read diversely, but I think there's a lot more that I could do, and by reading a Chinese author, this is like a step in the right direction. This is thanks to Charmaine. If she's created a channel, I will link it, but if not, she's at Travelling Through Books on Instagram, and she loves Murderbot by Martha Wells, and she has raved and raved and raved about the series. I think she just binged all of the novellas that are out. These are short, which is what I need in life because I read too many fat books. Well, I mean, I know that this is another sci-fi, so an area that I'm trying to improve upon, and it follows this murder bot. I don't even really know, but supposedly it's quite funny. It's easy to get through. I know that my friend Sam has also read it and loved it, and you know, I think it would just be good to have a series which is just quick novellas that I can fit in between bigger books and just help me like keep that momentum going. And speaking of sci-fi, another one that I want to get to next year is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This follows a young girl that as a child she discovers this metal hand, and it's an alien, or it's some sort of technology that as humans we're not aware of. And then as an adult, they are finding more and more pieces of this robot that created this hand all over the world, and so they're trying to piece together like what this robot is. This is told in a mixed media format, so it's got loads of different interview style questions, not interview style questions, like it's told in an interview format, which I think is very interesting. I've heard some people have said the audiobook is really, really good, but I've also heard mixed things from Emily Fox, who said that the French or the Quebec accent is really bad, and I don't know if that would bother me as a French speaker. So I'm a bit conflicted. So if you have any thoughts on the audiobook, then please let me know. Then I have The Lies of Lamora by Scott Lynch, another fantasy series that I feel like I should have already read. And I actually started this year, and I read 68 pages of it, and then I put it down. I just wasn't in the mood. It was the start of lockdown. I just needed an easy read, and this was not what I wanted at that time, but it's totally a me thing and not the book thing. And I would really like to read this series. I've heard really good things about it, and again, it just feels like one of those fantasy staples that I just have no excuse for not having gotten to it yet. I know that this follows like Thieves. Overall, I've heard really great things about this series. I know there's 3 books out, and there is meant to be more, and people have been waiting a very long time for the 4th book, which has put me off for a little bit, because it would be an incomplete series where I don't want another Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, where I read a series, love it, and then have to wait an eternity for another book, which I may or may not ever get. Another one is the City of Stairs series by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is actually the shelf space pick for January, so I should be getting this one very soon. I have loved Foundryside and Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett, so I cannot see me not loving City of Stairs, because I know that I enjoy his writing style, so in theory I should like all of his books. And so I'm very excited to get to that and just hopefully just binge the whole series, because it's all published, and hopefully that will tide me over between now and the release of the 3rd Foundryside book, which we just don't know anything about. Part of me just hopes that we get it soon, and I know that Robert Jackson Bennett can complete a series because he's completed City of Stairs. I then have A Time of Dread by John Gwynne, and as I mentioned, I loved the Faithful and the Fallen series by the same author. Like, I loved it this year. It was so good. And me and my friend Ina, who's part of the Shelf Space Discord, we have talked about buddy reading this in 2021, because we both loved Faithful and the Fallen. This is like a continuation of Faithful and the Fallen, but set like I think 1,000 years in the future, so very different characters, but it's set in the same world, and I think it still has some of like the implications that have happened from the end of that series that are still prevalent in the world. And this is a completed trilogy, so I'm very excited to get to this with Ina and binge read hopefully the whole thing. And then I know that John Gwynne has a new series coming out in May about Vikings, and that sounds really exciting too. So at the moment, John Gwynne is becoming like an auto-buy author that I don't see him doing anything wrong. And then finally, the final series that I am considering starting in 2021, and I'm a bit apprehensive about this one because, well, 1, they're gigantic, and 2, part of me wants to wait even longer until the next book is released, and that's Way of Kings. So I love Brandon Sanderson. I love pretty much all of the books that I've read by him. He can do no wrong, pretty much. And I do really need to get to the Stormlight Archive, but they are just massive. And I own part 1 of the first book. It's back at my parents', so I can start it technically. But it's just this fear that the 4th book has just come out, and then with the 5th book, which is going to be the first arc of the 10-book series complete, that part of me wants to wait a bit longer until that 5th book has a publication date, which isn't going to be for like 3 years. So if I start them all now and read the whole series up to now, by the time it gets to 3 years' time, I'm going to have to reread, which is a big commitment because they're 1,000 pages a piece. But then everyone again says that these books get better upon reread. So do I want to start it and then reread it in a few years' time? I don't know. And you're probably all going to say read Way of Kings because it's amazing. So it just feels a bit conflicting in my head. And part of me also wants to reread all of the rest of the Cosmere books before I get to Way of Kings, just so that everything's fresh in my mind. So I've just reread The Final Empire, so I definitely want to finish that series before starting. And then maybe I'm going to want to reread Elantris and Warbreaker as well, because they're so good. So I just, and with all the hype with Rhythm of War, it just makes me want to read it even more. I'm like, I just want to read everything Brandon Sanderson at the moment. But I then had the back of my mind going, it's so long until that 5th book's released. Such a big dilemma. Right, so those are some series that I'm thinking of starting next year and adding to my massive list of series that I have not finished. And why do I do this to myself? So thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye!